Welcome back to Andersen Acres. It's a real windy day here today. We're getting quite the wind off the lake, but I just thought I would take a few minutes to make a quick video before the wind really picks up, which it's going to. There we go. I just wanted to talk about water smart gardening and why it's so important. So, not everywhere has the same water availability. Okay, not everywhere does. These are turning. Gonna get some more peppers right away. Excellent. But not everywhere has the same water availability, and not all plants have the same needs. We have some late season beans happening. Late season beans over here too. A few late season beans. But not everywhere has the same water availability, and not all plants have the same water needs. Okay? Water shortages, especially in arid regions, are a reality for many, many people. Okay? You may have water restrictions in your area, so you may actually be unable to water your garden or to grow certain crops or whatever. You may not be allowed to do certain things just because of water restrictions, which is not uncommon, especially if you live in areas, around the Colorado River. A lot of those areas have water restrictions now. So you do have to think about water when you're planting. Okay? Also, you might want to consider that in some areas, watering your garden might really make your water bill skyrocket. That's a concern. That is something we definitely want to think about when we're thinking about our garden. Because if you have to water a lot of plants, you're going to have to pay for that water in a lot of areas. Now, we have spring water here, so we don't have to worry about that. But it is still a major concern for a lot of people in a lot of places. Okay? There's also environmental concerns when it comes to watering your garden a little too much. All right, so there's a lot of reasons why you might want to think about your water usage. And frankly, a lot of gardeners are quite sensitive to the water needs of their garden. It is, by the way, late fall. Everything is starting to wind down. We're going to pull all these things shortly. So yes, it's late fall. Very fun. So gardeners are often sensitive to water use and how much each of their plants requires, how much water each plant requires. If you are worried about water consumption, which a lot of people are, especially if you have to pay that water bill, and especially if you live in an area where there are water restrictions, so maybe you can't water your garden, you're going to really want to research what is best for your area. And that actually goes for the opposite people too. So I don't live in an arid region. I live in a very wet region, okay? We literally have lakes on either side of us. We get a lot of rain. We get a lot of moisture, a lot of snow. We're quite humid. We actually have a lot of water here. And what that means is if there's a plant I want to grow that actually can't handle that much water, I can't grow it outside. So I have plants that I can't grow simply because of how much water we have. So you may have the opposite problem. You may not be able to grow something you want to grow because it requires so much water and you simply can't water it for whatever reason. Okay, so you may have water restrictions. You might just not be comfortable paying that kind of a water bill if you have to water the heck out of it. Whatever it is, you maybe simply you might have to just choose what you plant based on water consumption. So, this is a dry day here, and so it looks dry. For example, this soil looks dry, but the second I put my hand in here, it's not dry down there anymore. So it looks dry on the top, but it's not really dry at all. So it's really important here that we not plant things that really don't like water. because we get a lot of rain. We get a lot of moisture in the winter. We get a lot of snow. It's nuts. I mean, we live between two giant lakes. So, yeah, we have the opposite problem. But if you live in an arid region, you definitely want to consider planting things that grow best in your region. Go to your local garden center and ask. Talk about a water smart garden with your garden center. They should have experts there that know what can take those kind of conditions and what would need a lot of water. They should be able to tell you. You want to grow what works for you, and you want to limit what I call plants that have adverse water needs. So plants that have water needs that are not in alignment with the region you live in. Okay, so at our last location before we moved here in the spring, I did have what I called an arid garden. It was growing plants that really didn't need very much water at all, and it was really difficult to keep them alive. Okay, very, very difficult to keep them alive. In fact, it was a pain in the butt because we got so much water. I had them under a cover, like in a gazebo kind of area. So I had like a covered area to grow them, and they still didn't do great because even though they weren't getting watered directly, the amount of humidity in our air was just too much for them. So even though I really like those kind of plants, I'm not going to do an arid garden here. I'm just going to let that idea go. And instead, we're focusing on things that like water because we have so much. So unless you're prepared to do all the watering and you're prepared to pay the water bill and you don't have any water restrictions, you really do want to consider planting only what matches the water needs in your area. Okay? Because it is a pain in the butt to fight the elements. Okay, just like I shouldn't plant things that take 6 months to grow when our growing season is only 5 months. I shouldn't do that. You shouldn't plant things that require different water, so have a different water need than what you can provide. So think about that before you start planting. All right, it is really, really important that you consider the water needs of each plant. So again, if you can't plant cedars in your area because they like water, then you shouldn't. All right? So that is about it for us here today at Andersen Acres. Remember to plant only what will work in your region. We'll see you tomorrow.